Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the free-to-play cast. This time it's episode 270, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I am your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, and we're actually recording on Friday the 27th, and you're watching it on Friday the 27th or later, because the new Skype fucking blows! Also on the line with me to talk about how bad the new forced version of Skype is, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'd be doing great if it weren't for that bad forced version of Skype.
Right? Yeah, now
What's my reply to this? I got to click a little button here. It says my reply is, yeah, I agree. Okay, there we go.
There we go. Also on the line, Mr. Troy Blackburn. How are you, sir?
I was here under the presumption we were going to pretend like this is the first time we've tried to do this.
Ever in our entire lives. Now, we're actually switching over to Discord here for this particular one because can't get the new Skype to display in widescreen. So this is going to be a little weird. We're going to have to figure out, like, are there lip sync issues and things like that? Maybe a little delay here and there. Stop that, Jason. You're not helping. You're not helping when you sit there and muppet. So we apologize if the lip sync is off a little bit. Shut up, Jason. God, stop it. Stop it!
No, you shut up. I was the one talking. You were moving your lips. I don't know what was going on there.
Mine should be fine, but I'm worried that you guys might be out of sync a little bit, and there's not really much I can do about that. So, you know, play a game. Listen to us in the background if you don't want to see some Godzilla
You don't want to
speak.
look at our faces anyway. Let's be honest.
Right. Let's head over to the news and get started. First up, we're going to have a little round of Let's Play WTF in the world of F2P, because there's some crazy, goofy shit going on in the last week or so. And we're going to start with one that I honestly didn't see coming, because I really didn't see a reason, but Raiders of the Broken Planet, a game we have never once talked about on this show at all, because there was no reason to. It was never free to play. It really didn't fit in with anything else we were talking about as a tangential subject. Not only is it going to go free to play, but it's being retitled as Space Lords. And, all right, I may think that Space Lords is a really stupid name, but it's a little better than Raiders of the Broken Planet as far as SEO value goes.
And
I got a feeling Raiders of the Broken Planet, they were going for something and didn't quite get there. So
yeah, and this was one of those like asymmetrical shooters, brawler type games, and it was $9.99, and it was like they did an episodic release. It was bizarre, but you know, whatever. If you like the game, that's fine. Enjoy it. It's going to be free to play. Now, that's not scheduled to happen until August 23rd, so you still have about a month to get on that. And if you already bought it, they're promising exclusive top-quality game content that won't be available to anyone else. But they really haven't been any more clear than that. Jason, we'll go to you first. Initial thoughts on this one.
Well, when you say you don't know why they went free to play, I look at their Steam charts page and it's like they have about 50 concurrent players. So that might be why. That's a bit of a reason for it.
That might be telling.
Might be something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, it's like it's a game that just hasn't. Nothing I've really ever been interested in. You know, it's something that I think I heard about it coming out a while ago, but then it just kind of fell away. And I mean, you know, good for you guys if you think that's what's going to work to, you know, more people in. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's got even with the name, even that awesome name Space Lords, doesn't seem like it's got that great of a prospect.
Yeah, so Mercury Steam changing this one up. Troy, it was just bizarre to me, the episodic releasing type stuff for this type of game. We've seen Telltale Games do that type of thing and do it very successfully with some of their products. We're going to see Square Enix attempt it with their Final Fantasy VII remake. We've already seen it to a certain extent in their Hitman most recent release a few years back. This was an asymmetrical shooter brawler. Why episodic releases for that? I didn't get it. So how do you think this is going to fare in the free-to-play market?
Free-to-play is unfortunately probably going to be really impatient. Like you said, you go to look at something like Telltale, right? And what I'm about to say, it probably applies to them too, but at least it makes sense for something like Telltale, where it's literally like you're playing a story. A game like this, it comes across more of as small development team, which is fine. So we can only kick out so much stuff at a time. So we're going to call it something fancy like episodic and put it out. So it's unusual for a genre like this, absolutely. So, but I mean, that free-to-play crowd, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, you like to think, oh, well, we're playing for free anyway, so we're just happy to get anything. And on the other hand, they're like, players are players, and they're going to absorb everything that there is to play, and they'll be like, oh my God, is this it? When's the next thing? Why isn't there more? Why isn't there more? Why isn't there more?
Troy Blackburn, Players Be Players, 2018.
Players be players, man.
I mean, the thing I worry about too is how is the episodic campaign going to go with the problem of splitting up your player base? It doesn't work like that too. So
well,
to me, that's always the biggest kicker in games like this is splitting up the player base. That's the last thing you want to do in a game like this.
And they blatantly said they're going to do it. Exclusive top quality game content that won't be available to anyone else. Now, does that mean actual modes or maps or things like that? We don't know, but that type of sentence certainly leaves it open to that type of potential where it's not just skins, but maybe the people that bought it before have access to maps, in which case, to your point, further splits the player base a little bit. Or everybody's just thrown into the same queue and you never get the maps you paid for because all kinds of free-to-play players are popping into your queue. Who knows? I don't know. And I don't have any experience with the game in particular, so I'm not going to comment on whether it's any good or anything like that. We'll, of course, be doing a first look for it when the time comes. Troy, you got a couple first looks in the works too, don't you?
Yeah, just put out one. I don't know if you've even published it yet or not. I've been super busy, and then I think you just shot me another one today. I was noticing.
I didn't even get one from you. What was it?
Yeah, it was the turn-based Nexon one on Steam.
You sent me that?
Yeah, Tango 5 Reloaded Grid Action Heroes. Yeah.
When did you send that? Son of a bitch! All right, we'll get that
Tuesday morning.
No, the only thing I got from you Tuesday morning, we'll look at it afterwards. The only thing I got from you was saying something about the servers were being a douche, and then you weren't able to get in.
That was the other game. That was the previous game.
All right, I'll go check it after this. Also in the world of WT...
We're a well-oiled machine right here.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a week. Thank God it's the weekend. Also in the world of WTF free-to-play, Runes of Magic. You remember this game, right, guys? Everybody remembers Runes of Magic. All right, it's only been around forever at this point. It's headed to Steam.
And what year is this?
Oh, my God. I was going back and I was watching some video last night at work during some downtime. I was like, Runes of Magic. I was like, it's been a hot minute. Let me just go look. What a WoW wannabe. Let me just say that. It just literally tries to look like WoW, every aspect of it. I was just watching some YouTube video and of course, there was nobody live playing on Twitch, so I was watching some previous streams on Twitch too. And it's just everything was just like WoW from like it makes a vanilla WoW look like fantastic. It's just, we've all played it at some point,
and it did come out 9 years ago, specifically trying to capitalize on World of Warcraft, and
it was just a hard reminder of we call so many things WoW clones nowadays. To go back and see an actual WoW clone, real legit WoW clone. I was like, oh man, some of these games that we just throw that around now. It's like, man, I kind of want to ease up on the WoW clone phrasing for a little while. Jeez.
Right, when you go back and you play Runes of Magic or Alad's Online, Jason, and you're like, wow, this is WoW. This is WoW. Now, Runes of Magic, I did dabble in that a little bit many years ago. I did appreciate some of the things, and yeah, obviously, huge WoW clone systems there, but they did some other things. They had the multi-classing system, right, where you could pick one class, a second class, and a third class, and gain abilities across those as you leveled them all up and stuff. Okay, ripped from Final Fantasy XI and other games that came before it. So, but I had a huge problem with Runes of Magic and some of the financial decisions that Runewalker Entertainment made. I always thought Runes of Magic kind of stood a chance as being an alternative to a subscription-based game. It capitalized on a lot of systems people like. There were some little intricacies that I did enjoy myself, but financially it just wasn't worth playing. playing,
Yeah,
Jason.
it seems like early on, like it was like you said, it was kind of okay, and people were kind of okay with it, and I think it got just kind of worse as it went along.
Yeah.
Now here's the interesting trivia story. Did you know that I am probably on this cast because of Runes of Magic?
How so?
Lord.
When I was doing a little freelance writing for the Beckett magazine, and I let them know that I'd like maybe have a larger role, maybe even go there full time or whatever. The person I replaced got let go from the company as an editor, in part because they really messed up a Runes of Magic player's guide that we had done, and that they paid lots of money for, and then they stopped working with us. So that got that person let go, and they hired me as a replacement. And through the magazine and through everything else, I got onto the various casts and so on, and now I'm here. So
right.
thank you, Runes of Magic, I guess.
So now they're headed to Steam, so predictably I think they'll have a bump in player base of whatever, X size for a little
At least
while.
20 or 30, yeah.
Right. God, such a cynical bastard. And they'll have a predictable bump in player base, just like Moo Legend's trying to capitalize on by getting its butt over onto Steam too. Although Moo Legend kind of doing it like in a timeline you would probably expect. Runes of Magic, I feel like they were like, well, let's see if this Steam thing takes off.
We're not sure yet.
Let's just see. It's pretty big now, but let's see if it has staying power.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that was my biggest takeaway from this. Is like, okay, this game has been around this long. Steve's been a big deal for this long.
Right?
Why now? Like, what happened?
Desperation. Desperation.
Yeah, it's an old school WoW clone, so if you're looking for something to, I don't know, check it out if you're even remotely interested in it. You know what, I may give it a whirl now that it's on Steam just for ease of use and nostalgia, but it's just one that I can't stick with for any great length of time. I'll play an outdated game, even graphically or mechanically, I don't care. I still dabble in Final Fantasy XI for fuck's sake. But the finances of Runes of Magic just didn't hold any interest for me. Also, let's move on. In our continuing trend of WTF and F2P, 15 staff members no longer part of Tryon Worlds. We saw this from Massively OP, so credit where credit is due to Justin Olivetti. Laid off 15 people. And this was right after the launch of Defiance 2050. Like, you want to say, hey, well, layoffs happen after MMOs launch. But yeah, 2050 is a little different, though. This wasn't, we worked on something new for hundreds of years, and now we don't need that development crew anymore. So about 15 people. Mop did get an update from Tryon confirming that 15 people are let go, but then we saw all kinds of people come out of the woodwork and say that their particular game wasn't impacted. We saw mentions in ArcAge, which was
ArcAge was
impacted.
The one that was.
They were impacted, which was funny to see. Certain quotes to the contrary, Trove and Rift, and well, okay, then who were these 15 people if none of your games were impacted? So these are the ones we know about, right, Jason? We've got the associate producer, Serafina Brennan, customer support environmental artist Jessica Pate, and community manager Joe Muzzy Brogno. Brogno posted a message actually on the ArcAge forums about it, kind of handing everything off to Linda Carlson, who's been with Tryon for and SOE and Daybreak Studios and
she did stuff for the magazine back when I was there.
All right.
That's how I know her, basically. That's where I first got to know her.
So, it's been a weird few weeks for Tryon, Troy, when you think about it, because we talked about Tryon still getting sued, Tryon buying out the gazillion assets. Now we're talking about Tryon layoffs, all within about a 3.5-week period. What's going on over at the old world?
They want to be publishers, obviously. Like, You say that, and then you look at games like ArcAge, which is one of the main reasons Tryon, like we talked about before, has the reputation it has now. When they were doing their own games, especially Rift back in the day, you know, they were looked at as a fairly good company. And now that they've become publishers, everything's their fault constantly, whether it is or isn't. I'm not saying it always is or isn't, but they take the blame even when it's not. I'm sure they do plenty that is. But it's just it's so weird to see the transition in the company, and I guess that's to an extent, man. I mean, just look at the MMO genre. The fact that we get so few things now, companies are so hesitant to get into MMOs. Long-term scenario, it's probably best that they get into publishing, but publishing has not been kind to them thus far.
Right?
And then stories like this come out, and you're like, man, it's just you know, what's going on over there. It always seems to be negative news. From
but what about Pavilion? That was a game they published. Oh wait, hang on.
Yeah. Oh wait. War of Nations. Oh wait. Oh, definitely wait. Yeah, so obviously our condolences to those laid off, and we hope they land on their feet. It always sucks to be in those positions, and I think just about all three of us on here have been in that position before, so we know it is not fun on an individual level. To Troy's point, Jason, and I think you and I have talked about this before, we kind of get the, yeah, all right, Tryon really wants to move into the publishing aspect of things as a company. But is there anybody outside the company that's like, yeah, Tryon should definitely be a publisher? Because all of us, like myself, I'm like, no, I don't want you to publish anymore.
I mean, as long as they have the money and the resources, someone will say that they want them to be their publisher. So
right, and clearly they do.
They need a win. They need like a real win when it comes to publishing.
They really do. They really do. And yeah, as far as having the money and the resources, laying some people off definitely shows company you have the resources and money.
Yeah, I mean, Trove is really a win for them, so, you know.
But again, as developed and published by them. Rift, developed and published by them.
Okay, you're saying in terms of just as a publisher, they need a win.
Right, as a standalone publisher with titles that aren't theirs, there's just not the track record that you would want to see if I was smaller and looking for a publisher. It's just not the track record. Maybe I'm crazy.
Maybe they'll be cheap then. They won't take as big a cut.
Hey, here's a stunning surprise for you guys in the world of free-to-play and what the fuckery. Did you know that thieves can actually use stolen credit cards to rack up some cash in free-to-play games and basically launder it online? I'm sure you're stunned by this, Jason.
What?
You mean when I went to freewowgold2.com, they might actually be an illegal site? Really?
So what's the story here, Jason? You wrote it up. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so a security firm came out with a study that basically, confirmed all the stuff we were talking about. They said that they use mostly for like mobile games. They listed a couple of them in particular that these bad actors would use, and they'd say that once they automated the account creation process, it then took the process further, automatically changing cards until a valid one is found, then automatically buying games and resources, posting the games and resources for sale, working with a digital wallet for order processing, and managing multiple Apple devices to distribute the load. The end result, an automated laundering tool for credit card thieves. So the point is that they just able to automate so much of this stuff, and I guess just rake in the money from stealing credit cards, buying stuff for an account, and then selling the account online.
Important to note here that while they did call a few games out in particular, this really wasn't related to the games. Anywhere there's, an audience, a big enough audience that could potentially be a pool of suckers or people to scam. That's Clash of Clans was specifically mentioned, not because anything Clash of Clans in particular does. We don't want to cast aspersions on the titles, but there's millions of people there. Plenty of marks and targets to go there. But I felt it was important to note that Crumtech, the security firm that did this study, did point out that there is some culpability on Apple's side of this for having some lax credit card verification processes. So they did kind of call Apple out a little bit here, Jason.
Yeah, they did. I have to read to see exactly where that was.
And Troy, I'm just going to warn you, when you see things, click here for free in-game cash. I'm just letting you know that maybe not the safest thing for you to do, Troy.
50% off in-game gems. Come to our site.
Free V-Bucks.
Save.
Yeah, so Apple only requires a valid email address, a password, a date of birth, and 3 security questions to create an Apple ID. And then the email accounts are easy enough to create. So yeah, it's not exactly the most stellar security they've got there.
Yeah, and just a note, I mean, if you use Facebook and stuff like that, I know you might like your little games on answer 20 questions about me and forward them to Troy and get him to answer them too. Take a closer look at like 2 or 3 of the questions hidden amongst those 20 questions, and you're going to realize they bear a striking similarity to security questions that you may be using on other sites. So, gang, just be careful out there. If it's too good to be true, Troy, then it's probably is.
Cromtech also says cards with improper names and addresses were approved. So they like.
Oh, well,
that's the part that scares me the most. Like you don't even have to.
Yeah.
They didn't have to put in the proper name and address, and still got approvals for some of that stuff. That's the scary part to me. Like the most scary. Not that it's not all scary, but
now I'm like tempted to try that. Like pay some bills online. And like as long as you get the numbers, the expiration date and the security number on the back right, I think you're going to be fine. I don't think the name and stuff like that matters. Well, I mean, there are people that have been for years, Jason. Remember back when you actually signed for things when you used your credit card at a store, and they like that thing, and you had to slide.
Yeah.
They just signed Abraham Lincoln and shit like that, and who cares? Nobody cared as long as the numbers were right. So be careful out there, gang. There's a whole lot of WTF in free to play and in gaming and in life in general. Moving on.
Stop trying to do anything.
Yeah. There is no such thing as free shit. Moving on. James Ohlen chatted with GameInformer last week. Yeah, I think it was last week. With GameInformer. Now, if you don't know who James Ohlen is, just to remind you, he might have had a little something to do with Star Wars: The Old Republic. A little something to do. Creative director, lead designer. A little something to do with Star Wars: The Old Republic. Just a smidge. Well, he did an interview with GameInformer where he got a chance, Troy, to kind of reminisce about SWTOR and his time at BioWare, since he had recently left to go work on some tabletop games over on the Dungeons & Dragons side of the fence. We obviously wish him luck. He wanted to work on something smaller, more personal, and there you go. He got it. But what were some of his thoughts, Jason, in general, on what happened with SWTOR?
Well, he said that he wished he would have pushed it more, as he said, quote, a little bit more towards making a kind of Knights of the Old Republic online, rather than Star Wars World of Warcraft.
look, can we have a moment of silence right now for SWTOR players who've been saying that since the word go with this game? Like, literally, here's the creative director of the game saying the words that the players have wanted since the beginning, but it's still not what we got. Sorry.
Speaking of Runes of Magic, he basically says, yeah, we made a WoW clone. Yeah, and I remember thinking that when I was first looking at it, I was like, it's got the neat voice acting and all, but it's basically WoW again with lightsabers. So, which, back in when they first started working on it in 07 or 08 or whenever, would have been a pretty good idea, it seemed.
Yeah.
By 2011, it was still a little old, but still not, the terriblest thought
I think
ever.
it just took too long.
Yeah. Well, it came at kind of that sort of in-between era, I think.
Yeah.
Like if it had been 5 years earlier, maybe it would have been a little better, but yeah.
Now, he said he's still proud of what it became, but he wished it would have trended more on the Knights of the Republic side online game rather than a World of Warcraft in a Star Wars skin side of the line, where it eventually ended up falling. Mm-hmm. And I gotta believe that if that's honestly how he feels now, and he's talking about that's how he may have felt then to a certain degree too. At what point do you say, hey, overlords, EA, I know what you want, but that's not what I want to work on. That's not where I see this going. I can't do this and go somewhere else. And I know, hey, standing on your morals when you're getting
go somewhere else.
When you're exactly, that's what they would have said. WoW. And
exactly. EA wanted WoW.
Family.
They wanted their version of WoW.
But is there something to be said for then maybe James? He knows so much that goes into that. Like, he's got a family and finances and all that he's got to watch out for personally, but isn't there a part of you that if you're James Ohlen probably wishes you said, hey, that's not what I want to work on. That's not where I think this should go. I'm going to go somewhere else. Get somebody else to do this rather than sit there. The only problem I have with these statements, Jason, is the fact that for years and years and years, this view was like flat out denied by the teams at BioWare, including James Ohlen. And now he's coming out and saying, yeah, it's Star Wars World of Warcraft.
What was it straight up denied? I mean, it feels like it's the sort of thing where everybody knew it.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I don't know if they just said. I mean, of course, everybody says that. Oh, we're not like World of Warcraft.
Right.
We have this that's different. The other 98% of the game is the same, but this 2%, this thing is really different over here.
Troy,
So, I mean, they all say that to some degree.
I need you to explain something to me, Troy, because I'm misunderstanding maybe definitions of words here. So Ohlen had said that he, quote, he wished he would have pushed for Star Wars The Old Republic to, quote, be a little more toward making it kind of Knights of the Republic online rather than Star Wars World of Warcraft. So that sounds like, hey, I have a little bit of regret. I wish we would have done this instead of this. But then further in the interview, he specifically says that he has no regrets regarding Star Wars The Old Republic. He was very complimentary of BioWare and the teams there and everything, had nothing but good things to say. And you know what? He was generally positive about Star Wars The Old Republic, too. It's not like he bashed the shit out of this or anything. He just said, I kind of wish we would have went with A instead of B, but I don't have any regrets. Wait a minute.
You're not actually making up words because the actual question from the interviewer was, do you have any regrets? And that was when he's talked about making it less like, wow.
Right.
And he says, I have no regrets.
Then he goes forward. He's like, well, I have one regret, and it's this. But I don't have any regrets.
Major aspect of the game that should have been completely different. No big deal.
Just a little one. All right, we got to get to what I think was the most eye-opening moment in this interview. So Ohlen was being asked about Star Wars The Old Republic, and he made this comparison. And I'm going to read the quote from top to bottom here, because this is nuts. Working on the development of Star Wars The Old Republic, I was the game director, which meant I had the most power. But I often felt like I was the captain of the Titanic, and I could just steer it a teeny tiny bit if I put all my efforts into it. When I saw that, my brain just kind of went, the Titanic. Really? That's the analogy. You know that didn't end well for most passengers, right?
You've seen that movie, right, bro? That movie totally doesn't end well for that show.
Yeah, there might be a few people at BioWare that take umbrage with that remark. But I can see his kind of point of view. You know, you had J. Bruce Ismay, White Star Line, kind of forcing the captain's hand a little bit on Titanic. Mm-hmm. You have EA with James Ohlen kind of forcing his hand on a bunch of this stuff. Maybe he has a little bit of control, maybe he doesn't. But that ended in the death of 1,500 people and one of the most famous disasters in the world's history. And you just compared Star Wars The Old Republic to it. As a fan, Jason, does that one kind of make you go, wait, what?
You know, I have to look back to see who it was with. It might have been with him, but I like him and Charles Boyd and some of the other guys. Where we did the interview, and they said, yeah, we failed. It failed. The game did poorly. We had to go free to play. So I mean, I'll at least give them credit for not being maybe the first time they mentioned it. But I don't know, James. I might have maybe not used that exact analogy.
I mean,
SWTOR's dying confirmed. SWTOR's dying confirmed.
Hindenburg, maybe. Titanic, I think that's a bit much. Troy, what's this say for future expansions and updates to the game? Where do you think that leaves this? Because ultimately, he was still very much involved in that stuff until very recently. We just had their most recent update get delayed, Jason, until the beginning of August. So what does this mean for the future? Speculate a little, Troy.
I was going to say it's already sort of the rumor mill churning that, you know, as slow as updates have been up until this point, that they're going to start slowing down more now. And then the old you know, BioWare's future is tied to Anthem rumor just will not die. They've been trying to like actively stamp that out recently, but that just will not die. That will not go away at this point. So
You know what else?
SWTOR is never been what they wanted it to be. That's been super obvious. Back in the day when they launched it, everybody wanted. They were still to the point where every publisher kept cranking out these MMOs because they thought they were going to have the next WoW, and it's just slowly sinking in that that's not going to happen. It's SWTOR is not dead, but man, the Titanic remark makes you feel like even on the inside, they kind of feel like like we could still be in trouble a little bit.
I like that in your sentence there's like 5 things I want to jump on. Not only did you say that that's just now sinking in, which I thought was funny. I also heard slow to turn. You know what else was slow to turn? I mean, maybe the analogy isn't as inapt as we thought, Jason. So we'll have to keep our eyes on SWTOR with this departure. And yeah, it is really hard not to jump and say, you know what, BioWare, you have all the eggs in the Anthem basket, and that's fine, but stop denying it, and good luck. Good luck.
And they'd love to have another big MMO or type game based on the new movies.
Right. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I can't wait for that rushed piece of garbage.
Before we separate on this topic of SWTOR, speaking of devastating defeats, I like SWTOR. I'm trying to be funny, not critical. I like the game. SWTOR came in second in MMO Bomb's World Cup 2018 of free-to-play. The winner, Jason, went to Warframe, which all of us predicted. We thought we were quite honestly surprised that it was SWTOR against them in the finals. Most of us thought it was going to be Path of Exile for most of the tournament. But Warframe was actually losing for a good amount of this, not by much. It was always like 52, 48, 53, 47, that type of thing. But then all of a sudden, and we tweeted every single game company, giving them all fair opportunity to spread it out on Twitter and get their fan bases to go and vote for it. And most of the time, they didn't do it, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But when you lose to a game like SWTOR and you're screaming about it, you probably should have retweeted our damn contest. That's all I'm saying. Warframe decided to do it. And boy, did they turn out, Jason.
Yeah, there were almost 18,000 votes cast when we didn't even get to like 1,000 in any of the other contests. Now SWTOR actually got a good number of votes. Like, would have been enough to win any other contest. They got over like 700. Warframe got, I guess around 17,000.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, Troy. It was like 96 to 4.
96 to 4, yeah.
At the end of it. And it was like all over the course of a day and a half. It was, somebody put it up on the forums on Warframe. We saw it there. We saw Warframe Digital Extremes retweet it. And it just went ape shit from there. Warframe was like, no way in hell are we letting this happen. So kudos to Warframe players. Congratulations to Digital Extremes and Warframe on your World Cup 2018 victory. Finishing it off today, and we have an update to this story too. So let's talk about the first portion of this. Riot Games had a question for fans this week coming from Mark Merrill. Said, should we build an MMO? Yay or nay? Now, Mark Merrill, one of the co-founders of Riot Games. Now, remember, in addition to that, the co-founders have decided to kind of step back in that role and go more into the development aspect of things because they want to make the S on the end of Riot Games worthwhile and accurate, and they've already teased that they want to work on some more projects, some different games, but we really don't know what. We haven't heard anything since then. So this tweet kind of came out of left field. Should we build an MMO, yay or nay? Then the internet was on fire, Troy, for 3 days after that, right?
Yeah, because everybody thinks, League of Legends MMO, what good and bad, like they're mad and happy all at the same time, right? Because they immediately think League of Legends MMO, and for good reason that the player base automatically goes there with our thought process, because here again, this company has made all this money off of one game. We've never seen them do anything else. Like, do you have anything else? Do you have a portfolio of characters that aren't future League of Legends releases?
I don't think it matters. You don't need a portfolio when you're swimming in Scrooge McDuck type cash.
That's the other thing. Like, at the end of the day, if it was my company, no matter how much money I had in 2018, I don't know that I would invest in an MMO. I don't know that I would want to. I don't know that the money's really there.
Right.
Even as much as the people used to say, oh, I'm going to be the next WoW, they at least had games came out that made money. I'm not sure that's even there so much nowadays. But if there was one company who had the money to put into true AAA MMOs, is this not it? I mean, who else is going to have the kind of funding and development time that a company like Riot would have right now?
What? You got Squeenix and Blizzard right off the top of my head, and there you go.
Yeah, and then suddenly you run out of companies that can do the things
the rest
that Riot
of them
could do.
can just get Tryon to be their publisher.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Now, there's also this to consider, Jason, that the phrase or the term MMO has wildly different meanings per person now. It's as wildly varying as free to play or pay to win when you ask a certain subset of people. So there was the subset of people that saw MMO and automatically thought MMORPG, something like a World of Warcraft. Some people then there were arguments about whether League of Legends qualified as an MMO, being in the MOBA genre, and then with 5v5, not massively multiplayer. And then of course the other people saying, of course it's massively multiplayer. There's bajillions of people online. Just because one match only has 10 in it. They weren't specific. They just left it at MMO, and we don't know Mark Merrill or Riot Games' own personal internal definition of that term. They could have been referring to just about anything. What do you think, Jason? Should they? And did you read this as MMORPG? Because I kind of got excited. I thought, I was with you, Troy. I was like, I would watch whatever MMORPG you put out there, and I would give it a shot. Hands down, I would give, even if it was in the League of Legends world and universe, which I couldn't care less about in the terms of the MOBA itself, I'll go explore it and see what it's like. I trust them as a development company to at least give their product a shot, and was kind of excited. Jason, you kind of look less than thrilled.
That is the one point that almost lends us a tiny bit of relevance, because I thought, like over the past month or so, they've been showing off a lot of building stuff. They had that map they brought out, just a few days ago.
And they want to do something, so there's a project somewhere.
Sure, and our old friend Scott Hawks from Gamebreaker, he works for Riot now, writes lore for them, so I follow him, and he writes occasional little bits here and there. So they have been working a lot more on the lore and on the story of it all, as opposed to just, which most people, I don't know, to some degree they care about that. On the other hand, like I said, you want the 5v5 battles. So there is some point to the lore being made there. So I could see a little bit of them wanting to do an MMORPG, even in the League of Legends universe. But I also thought, he's just saying stuff. I think he's just trying to get the internet riled up, light it on fire, like you said. I didn't really believe, because I don't think they're going to decide to do an MMO or MMORPG or whatever your shooter, whatever you wanted, based on a few people responding on Twitter. If they're going to do it, they've got their board meetings and their focus groups or whatever. They're figuring that out.
If they're going to do it, it's already a year in development.
Yeah,
they're going to do it. It's already underway. And so I guess it's important now that we cap this off by saying, and our hopes were dashed just like a ship hitting an iceberg. Variety spoke with Riot Games community director about the tweet, and we got an update on what it might mean, and they kind of told them that, hey, Merrill was just trying to encourage players to think of what Riot's long-term goals could look like. This was nothing official or speculative. It was more just having fun with some people online. Which pissed a bunch of people off. So there's a lot of fun, Troy. Yes.
To be fair, it was a question, not a statement.
Yeah,
to be fair.
It was. But when it's coming from Mark Merrill, the co-founder of Riot Games, who is working on some type of project, to say, hey, should we build an MMO? Yay or nay? Come on. Come on.
Look. The last time there was a company that had a really big MOBA, finally decided to make a new game after so long not making one, we got Artifact. So do you really want them to make a new game now? Do you really want it?
Yes, I trust Riot more than I trust Valve.
All right. Well, maybe.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. We're going to see if that Steam thing takes off. And then I'll make a decision on how.
Wait and see.
Yeah,
Wait
I'll
and
make
see.
a decision. I think Rune Waker is Rune Walker. What the hell is Rune's
Runes of Magic.
What's their company name? It's Rune
Oh.
Walker, isn't it?
Walker, I think.
Rune Walker, yeah. No, Rune Waker. It's Rune Waker.
It is Waker. Okay.
I think they're jumping the gun on this Steam thing. I'm gonna wait a little bit and then I'll make a decision on Valve. Right now, I trust Riot Games more. So our hopes were dashed, but we know there's something in the works. We just don't know.
It was just his question of the week.
Yeah, it was his
That's all it was.
question of the week. And just a hint, it's gonna be ours. But before then, let's go and do the weekly bombs. Troy, you're up.
I'm going to give an A-bomb to Defiance 2050 on PC. A few hours into some of the open betas and stuff, and I knew that it wasn't going to be enough for me. I'm happy for the folks on the current gen consoles who have been asking for it and are getting to play it on there. But I mean, it's a flop. It really is a flop. And I want to give a da-bomb to World of Warcraft for always being there when Daddy needs to come home. Thank you.
And taking your money.
So next month
They are taking
you're going to
my
be
money.
in the expansion next month, I assume.
Yeah, I've already paid for it in the whole shebang, so I'm ready. Been
Jason.
catching up on Legion stuff that I haven't been playing, so.
Go for it, Jason.
I'm going to give an A-bomb to Valve, speaking of which, for their solution to the whole loot box situation for Dota 2 in the Netherlands.
Yeah, this is a good one.
So the issue that the Netherlands had when they, told them, you can't do loot boxes anymore because they're random. That's the issue. You can't do random loot, make people pay for it. They said, okay, people can see what the next loot box is, what's going to be in it. We'll tell you exactly what's going to be in it.
All right, well,
There
that
you go.
solves the problem, Jason.
That's our
Done.
solution. Now it's not random anymore.
Right.
Right.
Here's what's in the loot box. If you buy it, this is the stuff you're going to get. Okay, great. Well, they solved it, Jason. Why are you so upset?
But what's going to come in the loot box after that?
Well,
I don't know. How can I find out what's going to come? Oh, I know. I can buy this current loot
Well, I'm
box.
sure I could just hit refresh until I get a loot box that I like, or log out and log in and get a loot box that I like before I buy.
It's
Right?
Tied to your account. It won't change until you buy one. It won't change. Then you'll see what the next loot box is going to give you. If you don't like what's in that, well, you have to buy it, and then you can see what the next loot box is going to give you. And then if you don't like that,
So
you buy.
the contents of the current loot box are no longer random and unidentified. It's the contents of the one that you're going to maybe buy after you have to buy this one to see the contents of the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That sounds a lot like just buying a loot box.
Yeah, I'm sure the Dutch will not figure this one out. I'm sure they just won't get this one.
This is what I talked about when we were talking about, right back at the beginning of talking about legalizing loot boxes or doing laws against them. They will find every loophole they can to exploit it. Unless you craft rock solid policy, companies will find every loophole possible to maintain.
It seems so
their-
slimy for a company
It-
as big
it's-
as Valve. Yeah, as big as they are, this seems so slimy.
But they could be
Like-
bigger.
Here's what your option was. Don't sell anything or let people buy what they want. And instead they were like, no. How could we pull people into the dark alley and smack them over the head for their wallets still? It just seems so slimy. I'm going to give a good luck bomb. Making it
What?
up. Yeah, I'm making it up. To Star Trek Online's executive producer, Stephen Ricossa, who is stepping down now to not leaving Cryptic Studios, just stepping down from Star Wars Online or Star Trek Online, and heading over to other Cryptic Studios projects. And I'm really eager to see where he falls next, because remember, we've got a lot of Cryptic Studios / PWE stuff on the horizon here. We have the Magic the Gathering MMORPG, which we have seen nothing about since it was announced like a year and a half ago. We've got another one coming up in 2019, Remnant, which is a horror shooter game coming from them. Now, they list that one as single player on their site, but it is co-op, and I don't think that's going to be free to play given the nature of the game, but we'll watch that. There's a lot of projects going on over there. So good luck, Stephen, and good luck to all the replacement teams over at Star Trek Online. From the
One
viewers,
perfect world product that's not coming around is gigantic.
right.
Wow.
They're having their goodbye
Yeah.
stream is today, isn't it?
I think so.
From the viewers, Elusive X Treasure, on a sidebar on this one, Elusive X Treasure last week talked about a name in Defiance that they weren't allowed to use. They couldn't figure out why her husband could not use this character name they wanted to, so they opened a ticket. The ticket told them that they weren't going to open the name, but the language on it said, "We're sorry that you can use this name." They meant cannot, but even the ticket said, "We're sorry that you can use this name." Elusive X Treasure, wild story. But to cut it short here, as a side note for Troy, whenever he resurfaces, well, here he is. I know he dabbles in Atlas Reactor, so I'd just like to know, does he play Blackburn?
I don't always play Blackburn, but when I do, I'm a total badass.
Oh, boy. Go ahead, Jason.
Legwin says, the bomb for Path of Exile going banhammer mad. At least 2 bots have been hit, one of which has decided to call it quits, and a cheat tool getting a warning, then subsequent bans. Always fun to watch the bugs flee when you kick over the rocks they were under. And an A-bomb to Tryon and Defiance 2050. The revamp gutted the game. The rebalancing pushes it to an even more pay-to-win game, and the performance, they fixed something one patch and caused 30 arcfalls to appear on the map, and it killed the server. It was funny killing monsters that did not move and taking 6 seconds to move or more to swap a weapon.
Yeah, it's not going well, and I know you've been kind of trending it on Steam charts, Jason, and it just and their reviews more to
The reviews
the
have been
point.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Troy.
Doggy V72. This is a really crappy year for games when Monster Hunter and Fortnite are hyped. Ugh.
Oh, okay. Fortnite, okay, fine. Battle Royale, I get that. But Monster Hunter? Come on. That was huge that it returned to consoles. That was huge that it made that return. All right. Whatever. Jerry Necessary says, loot boxes should never be added into a Founders Pack / promo pack. The consumer should know, talking about ArcAge when we talked about that topic last episode, consumers should know exactly what they're getting, and companies like Tryon need to be taken accountable for this. But then again, it's down to the consumer in buying the pack in the first place. You're very right, Cherry, and we are still watching that lawsuit to see how that one works out. Jason, go ahead.
Cyberpunk Girl says, dear Mike Byrne, Nosgoth should come back. It was a nice game.
I agree.
God,
I mean, Jason,
I loved Nosgoth. It was so much fun.
Jason more so than I, but I enjoyed Nosgoth too. Go ahead, Troy.
Excel Kobayashi, A-bomb to MapleStory 2 for having the worst controls I think I've ever seen in an MMO. On my setup, the mouse is so bad, it's basically unusable. Doesn't aim the skills or attack. So if I want to attack up left, I have to press W plus A plus control all in the same hand while the mouse hand does nothing. That sounds like the game that I did the first look for that Mike has and says he doesn't have. The keyboard HUD is useless because I have a non-QWERTY keyboard, but it only shows the equivalent QWERTY key, even in the bindings. And the controller has a steaming pile of UI as well, since it's hard-coded to Xbox with no way to remap anything. Basically, the game is unplayable for me. I posted all of these things during the first beta over 2 months ago, and none of them have been resolved.
Ouch. Ouch. From Sorvent TV, I want to give a dub bomb to Nexon for finally moving forward with MapleStory 2, so we've got both sides of the MapleStory pie. Although I want to give Nexon an A-bomb for not bringing any of their games to the Switch yet. I'd be surprised if that stays that way. I could see Nexon bringing a couple of titles to Switch. Question of the week last week, how would you spice up the Battle Royale genre? We asked, and boy, did you deliver. Hydrex Sky Shadow, question of the week. Okay, so this is long, so I apologize. I'm the guy that should not be asked, what would you add to this game, because I already have 20 answers. Again, I'm sorry. Hydrex did have a bunch of answers. I picked 2 here just in the interest of time. Number 1, give me a reason to play. Most of them have absolutely no reason to play, perform, or win. So give me a leveling system where I can get a common cosmetic item after I level up once and a rare one after 10 levels or something similar. Give me more than just a, you win. Number 2, I'd make it fantasy. And Jason, you've said this before too. Mm-hmm. We already have a lot of shotgun to sniper games. How about a lightning gun, a lava crossbow, a crystal mortar, a soul shredder? Give me the game more of a personality. We already know about the AWP and M4A4. Every damn shooter has them. So, Jason, a point you have brought up. Looking
Of course,
for
'cause
your
I'm always right.
Yeah, looking for your fantasy-based battle royale. Go ahead, Jason.
Fiends 001 says the only way to make the battle royale genre better is to kill it entirely.
Well, not entirely. We got to let one win. Troy, go ahead, take the next
Yeah, that
one.
was the point of the question. One has to be good. Yummy Kami, here's how I would spice up Battle Royale. First, I would make it a hero shooter BR game, but every character is a barely dressed, well-endowed lady. Weapons would be acquired through a card game mechanic. Oh my god, this is horrible. There would be lanes with minions and towers running back and forth. Everything would be VR, of course. And then I would put in Monster Hunter World and put it into a big world like World of Warcraft with 60 L's, of course. You also had to move little units around while trying to solve a Candy Crush-like game. You would also get a farm where you farm crops, but you have to wait a long time for everything, unless you get the right card, of course. Cards you get through microtransactions, but you can get them in-game, but very slowly. The name of the game would be Fair Out Slyrim, and it would have horse armor. Yes, there are mounts in the game, of course. Only for premium customers, though. That is fantastic piece of game development there. You are probably hired by EA is probably sending you a job offer at this moment.
That's what they're looking at. That's what they're talking about on their call this week.
EA is going to call Yami Kami, acquire Yami, and then shut it down. James Esparza says, all right, listen up. This is the next greatest frickin' battle royale anything that's ever existed idea thing. Are you ready? You make an exact freaking clone of Battlegrounds, except make it in a playable state with decent frame rates and optimize the shit out of it. When I say clone, I mean freaking clone. I'm talking pushing the boundaries of being a freaking clone. Only the name is the difference. I mean, what are they going to do? Freaking sue you? Yeah, sure. Like that worked for them last time. Boom. Congratulations, you're a billionaire. Thank me later. Have a nice night. James and Yami, amazing. Just amazing answers. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, but they already made $1 billion without having to make a optimized game. So why not? All right. And Burn It Shall
Great name.
says, question of the week, I would remove snipers because no press snipers. I would go for a high movement speed with long-range weapons that are rather weak, but are meant to harass players in open fields, and further focus on shotguns and SMGs for the hilly terrain and swathes of plains separating it. I'd have the circle be replaced by multiple circles, which would each decrease in number, move to a final random location. I should point out that is actually what Radical Heights kind of did. So that was an interesting idea there. I thought they had
with their like square grid system.
little grid thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So constant movement, limited camping, but camping is still strong due to everyone having to move through areas with little view, and ambushing. Essentially, dread of battle royales with pace of arena shooters.
Interesting. Finish it up, Troy.
Someone with actual real suggestions. Go figure.
Right. I like the ones before the real suggestions. Bits Turn Bite, new battle royale idea. Use animal as the players, and whatever animal you pick, then the weapons and abilities you get have to be realistic. So if you pick a bull, then you can charge your opponent. If you're a fish, you only can play on a watertight map. If you pick a monkey, then start flinging that poo. Might be an interesting idea.
Animal Royale.
Now I just want to fling poo in a battle royale.
Oh, look, the Sloth DLC. Question of the week. Should Riot Games make an MMO? Now, we know the tweet was just in good fun and whatever, but seriously from us, should Riot make an MMO? Whether that's an MMORPG in your book or something different, that's fine. Should they do it? And if so, should it be set in the League of Legends universe and use that lore? Or should it be something brand new? Give us your comments down below. While you're there, make sure you give us your weekly bombs, da bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad, or your question for the panel. Until then, Troy, where can everybody find you?
Twitter.com/noobfridge. I've been busy at work lately, so I'm not doing a lot at the moment, so I don't want to plug too much. But yeah, give me a follow. Hopefully things come around soon.
Mr. Winter.
Find me on Twitter at WinterInformal. I'm going to be moving next week, so last time in this environment.
Oh, yeah.
So, tune in to see me at the new place.
Good luck with the move. I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magicman. You can follow me personally on Twitter right there at MagicMan1. But more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so you get the tweets for all the latest news, interviews, previews, first looks I don't see in my Skype because Troy's a liar, and more. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.